You know what's crazy to me? It seems like so many people are making insane AI tools, and then there's me. Someone who doesn't quite know what they're doing in game development yet, but really wants to figure out how to make the enemy in my game do anything. But right now, he just kinda sits there, looking like the unfinished model he is. If you're new here, I'm trying to learn game development from scratch, and it's been a lot of trial and error. And error. And error. But even though I still have a long way to go, I do feel myself slowly improving, which is a cool feeling. I somehow managed to fumble my way through making a simple 2D game, and now I'm giving 3D a shot. In my last game, I had a few different kinds of enemies, but aside from some small differences, they all really only had one state: attack the player. This is because the size of the arena was small enough that they didn't need a limit on their field of view. But in my new game, it would be weird if all the enemies, even the ones at the end of the level many blocks away, all made a beeline toward you the second you spawned in. To fix this, I'm going to need a state machine. You see, I recently gave this channel's Discord a game dev challenge to make a state machine, and the timing of this was no coincidence. It was cool to see how other people made their state machines, and I figured I can learn from them and try one myself. If you're looking for a supportive game dev community, by the way, feel free to join our Discord with the link in the description. We're also doing a game collaboration where the Discord votes on what features they want to see in a game, and I have to try and make it. Would love to see you there and be a part of our supportive community. So, what is a state machine? Well, with my limited programming knowledge, it's a way to change the behavior of something by defining those different behaviors in code. In my case, there are 3 different behaviors that I want my enemy to have. First is idle, when the enemy isn't doing anything. Next is patrolling, where the enemy is moving around searching for a target. And finally, attacking, when the enemy can see the player. Now, I think it's important to reiterate that I'm pretty new to this, so my goal isn't to make it optimal, it's to make it work. Let's figure out how to do that. I'm going to start off by creating my 3 states, then a variable that will hold the current state the enemy is in. I think I'll be able to use a match statement to check the state that the enemy is in and execute different logic accordingly. Now, as for what that logic is going to be, let's start off easy and put the enemy in the patrolling state, and just make him move forward toward the player. Alright, he's a little confused, but his heart's in the right place. I also added a raycast pointed down so he's able to detect if there's ground in front of him, or if he's about to walk off a ledge, so at least that seems to work. Let's change it so he chooses a random location near him every few seconds to walk to, like he's actually patrolling the area. Okay, but can he keep moving? Well, I mean, since we're here, let's make the code for the idle state. Done, now back to patrolling. Still a little wonky, but I was able to kind of get it working by incorporating a timer to switch between the patrolling and idle states. Each time it switches states, it picks a new point to walk to. I think I should make him turn to look in the direction he's walking though. Nope. 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 Okay, I'm good with this for now. It needs a lot of cleaning up, but let's start figuring out the attacking. For my first attempt, I added a raycast to the front of the enemy to look for the player, but it looks like he's trying to run away from the player. Maybe it needs more raycasts? Alright, we're onto something here, but it still isn't chasing the player. It's more so just detecting that the player is in front of it and moving forward. If I move to the left or right, it's going to stop chasing me. There's clearly a lot that I'm not understanding here. After working on this for a while at this point, I feel like it's still pretty far from where I want it to be. I think I should do some more research to figure out if there's a better way to do this. Alright, I did some research and I'm both happy and depressed about what I discovered. It turns out that there is indeed a much better way of pathfinding in Godot using two nodes I've never used before, the Navigation Region 3D and the Navigation Agent 3D. From what it looks like, the Navigation Region is used for defining the terrain in the level, and the Navigation Agent handles the movement over that terrain. I was trying to do this all myself up to this point, but it turns out I don't have to. That's why I'm happy, but the reason why I'm depressed? Time to start from scratch. I'm going to start by making the grid map of my level a child of my new Navigation Region 3D node, create a new navigation mesh, and bake the mesh. This should define the area that the enemy is going to be able to move around in. Now, it looks like with just a little bit of work on the Navigation Agent 3D... Wait, was that it? I wasted so much time trying to do this myself. I definitely learned something though. Before spending hours working on something, it might be worth it to see if your engine already has a tool for that built in. Time to work on adding back the state machine. Since our enemy seems to be chasing the player pretty well now, let's work on changing when he chases the player, since I only want him to chase when the player is within a certain distance. Luckily, I already know that Godot has a function to find the distance between 2 points, so I'll use that to check if the distance between the enemy and the player is within a certain range. See? I'm learning. I guess it helps to check the documentation from time to time. With a few adjustments and the help of the lookat function, it's starting to come along pretty well. But of course, I need the player to actually get hit when the enemy touches them. Let's start by making sure that I can detect the contact. Yep, seems to be working. Next, I'll give the player some health and subtract 1 every time there's a collision. Nice, but if I leave it here, it would feel really weird when getting hit because other than the word ouch in the console, there's no real indication on what just happened. Let's work on this. I'll start off by making the player invincible for a short time when they get hit. This prevents losing all your health too quickly just by running into one enemy. To indicate that the player is invincible, I made them blink, which is ironically what I also named the player as well. Next, I added some knockback, although it took a few tries to get it dialed in. That seems like a good amount. I still want a little more oomph though, without the player getting slapped back to the beginning of the stage. What about some camera shake? I started by making a short timer that will control how long the camera shakes for. Then I created an if statement that says if the timer is running, generate a small random value and add it to the camera position. I didn't get it quite right on my first attempt because game dev is hard, but eventually I was able to fix the bugs and have some nice screen shake when you get hit. Now let's finish up the state machine. Currently, the enemy just sits there in the idle state until the player is close enough, which could be cool if it was a statue that wakes up when you get too close, but it's not a statue, and I want him to move around when he's not chasing the player. I did this by defining the distance around his original spawn position where he can wander. Then I created a timer where every time it reaches 0, a new point in that area is chosen as a new target to walk to. This has the added benefit of drawing the enemy back to its spawn if it chases the player outside of its starting area. I'm still amazed at how easy those navigation nodes made the pathfinding. In a way, I'm kind of glad that I didn't know about those nodes when I first started out, because it really helped me appreciate how much easier they made everything. So, the state machine is finished, but I think we're missing something crucial. How does the player beat the enemy? Since the beginning when I first modeled the enemy, and I'm using the word modeled loosely, I intended the player to have to ground pound this weird cone thing to destroy it. I think I can do this by adding a simple check during collisions. If the player was ground pounding when the collision happened, the enemy dies. With that, we finally have the logic for our enemy AI. It turned out better than I thought it would, and by that, I mean that it actually works. This took me a while, but it's also cool to think that this would have taken me at least 10 times longer a year ago. Little by little, I can feel myself improving, so that in itself is a big win for future projects, because everything I learn now, I'll be able to use later. As for what those future projects will be, that depends on what the Discord votes on, so be sure to join with the link in the description to cast your vote. Or if you're just looking for a great community of game devs helping each other out and sharing what they're working on, we'd love to have you a part of it. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Keep learning.